New York Appellate Court rejected Donald Trump's bid to have Judge Juan Merchan recused from the case, citing Merchan's daughter's work consulting for Democratic clients.
With the final decision from the court expected this week, ex-President Donald Trump's mental state seems to be descending into complete chaos, just as the court curtains appear to be opening again.
I wasn't sure that I would have when I read the indictment, but now having seen the case, I'm not sure after investigating it how they wouldn't bring it. They had a much stronger case than I imagined. There's an overwhelming chance of a conviction, a significant but much smaller chance of a hung jury, and zero chance of an acquittal.
A heavy sigh of relief or perhaps incarceration awaits the former president, who has been on trial for months for a felony charge of falsifying records to pay hush money which defrauded voters in the 2016 presidential elections.
The prosecution has really given the jury sort of each piece of evidence, and it's sort of very much a piece-by-piece case that they would need to find Mr. Trump guilty if that's what they decide to do.
The latter scenario, which is difficult to envision given the enormous figure that is Donald Trump and the fact that similar scenarios in the past have also resulted in the ex-president remaining out of jail, heightens the suspense and intrigue surrounding any potential verdict that may be made this week.
This trial is rigged. It's dishonest. It's a disgrace to New York. It's a disgrace to the country. I should be out campaigning now instead of sitting in a very cold courthouse all day long. This is a Biden prosecution.
The former president, in contrast to us, who are likely resting easy in anticipation of the last day, is likely in a state of panic after posting a series of statements on his Truth social media platform. The former president appears to have finally decided to testify, albeit not in court, as this post focuses heavily on the case, specifically the allegations of record falsification. The ex-president goes on a tirade about how his bookkeeper should have handled naming the transaction record while admitting to paying Michael Cohen but being unaware of any payments made to Stormy Daniels, with whom he has also denied any involvement. As usual, he's not above aiming at President Joe Biden, accusing him of using these legal proceedings to hurt his chances of winning re-election. Judge Merchan is another target of Mr. Trump, who is unapologetically blunt as ever, and has repeatedly referred to him as conflicted and biased. His remarks regarding Alvin Bragg are consistent with earlier reports, which may indicate that he isn't in favor of the legal proceedings against him and is only carrying them out at the judge's request. Such an evaluation is still an allegation that is false legally.
That question. It has been vague until today. You heard Michael Cohen's testimony, after which I would say it is less clear than ever what that crime actually was. They'll say falsifying business records. Well, let's look at who did we learn falsified business records today?
Republicans continue to argue that Donald Trump's payment to Michael Cohen was not for an accusation similar to the hush money payment made by Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, but rather a legal expense for services Cohen had performed for Trump prior to 2017.
Repaying Michael Cohen for the money that he paid to Stormy Daniels, which was politically motivated according to Donald Trump's own friends and witnesses, such as David Pecker, which makes it a crime if it was politically motivated to pay hush money. This document shows how the calculation was made to repay Michael Cohen. And in Weisselberg's handwriting, he took $420,000, divided it by 12, and that equaled $35,000. 420 divided by 12 equals $35,000 a month to repay Michael Cohen for what he went to jail for, which is the crime of paying somebody to be quiet for political reasons right before.
According to the documents, a $420,000 reimbursement was paid rather than a $130,000 reimbursement, which the Republicans used to counter the Democrats' claims that Donald Trump was a frugal businessman, a strategy used to prove their point.
Released Wednesday states Trump fully reimbursed Cohen for expenses in 2017. Michael Cohen has emerged as a central figure in a scandal embroiling the White House.
The fact that Cohen and Trump's prosecutors have acknowledged that the transaction was a result of settling Stormy Daniels and her mouth, and that it was characterized as a legal expense rather than a reimbursement, was a significant factor that led to suspicions that the two were trying to cover up something If proven guilty, this serious felony case deserves jail time.
We have a corrupt and conflicted judge. We have a corrupt DA. We have a corrupt system in New York, and it's going to have to change.
His posts don't stop here. The former president appears to be in full panic mode, and given his perceptions of the judge's Democratic affiliation, he probably has horrible ideas.
Yeah, I think they built a case that was not subject to cross-examination, really. It's based on documents and texts and emails and the words of the defendant. And then they presented their most controversial witness, the cooperating bagman. But the case, I bet they even talked about whether to call him, given the strength of their case, before they put him on.
James Comey, Obama's FBI director from 2013 until his firing by Trump a year later, is not immune to the backlash. It was no secret that he had drawn attention due to his alignment with the prosecution's case against the former president. Mr. Trump also brought up his turbulent history, claiming that he, along with Bragg and Judge Juan Merchan, are propagandizing lies. Last but not least, in what is likely to be a panic session, he slams everyone once again, including District Attorney Bragg, Juan Merchan, and the president, whom he consistently calls crooked, which is disrespectful to the standing president.
We must work together. Combine with us. You have to combine with us. We cannot give crooked Joe Biden 4 more years.
Not surprisingly, Donald Trump showed zero respect for the sitting president even after being declared the winner in 2020. He even skipped his inauguration ceremony, which is well known and remembered, and attempted to overturn the election, which he ultimately failed to do.
Prosecutors say the payment was meant to keep her quiet so she couldn't derail his campaign. The defense says there was no crime. It was all a shakedown.
The question of whether he ever had a relationship with porn star Stormy Daniels would cast doubt on whether he genuinely fabricated records, which would only serve to demonstrate that the money he gave Michael Cohen was repaid for his assistance in resolving the matter earlier. If it's the other way around, it's just a bookkeeping error, which isn't really an error, because legal expense is an appropriate term for payment for services rendered to your lawyer.
Emails and text messages that the prosecutors did not put into evidence.
It is unclear why the purported bookkeeper chose not to testify in person and instead allowed attorney Robert Costello to reiterate the claims that Michael Cohen was lying on oath and that Donald Trump was unaware of the hush money payment.
Admonition, the judge got even more incensed. He accused the witness of staring him down and said that at certain points during his testimony he had been rolling his eyes and giving him side eye. Upset, the judge ordered the courtroom cleared. Officers ushered reporters out into the hallway. And
as most people are aware and previously reported, Judge Merchan later admonished him for his inappropriate behavior on stage and threatened to have him removed if he continued.
A great case was put on. There is no crime. In fact, I just got almost every review that's been done of the case so far. As they say, there is no crime.
Could the former president truly be troubled? He seems content after the previous events, and his words implied that they had quieted the prosecution. But could he be in another heart attack session after seeing headlines about Costello's testimony, which would further implicate him rather than help matters?
3.5 years, do you regret it all the lying you've done to the American people?
All the what?
All the lying, all the dishonesties.
That who has done?
You have done.
Given the escalating public belief that the former president tends to lie, this may be one of his crafty maneuvers. However, we won't be able to determine for sure until the case is proven.
The protest comes as the former president tries to gain support from minority voters. A large crowd of people lined up for hours to attend Trump's rally in the park. This is his first campaign rally in New York since
Just 3 days ago, the Republicans held a somewhat contentious campaign gathering at Crotona Park in the South Bronx, New York. Now, outside the court walls, they're continuing their rally with Donald Trump on stage. With an acclaimed large turnout, the former president complained that the media was not covering the event as much as they should have, adding to his claims that the powers were conspiring against him.
Well, Donald Trump's presidency was a catastrophe for the Bronx. His gross mismanagement of the COVID-19 global pandemic left a death toll of more than 7,000 fatalities in the Bronx.
Since nearly every action taken by Trump contains elements of controversy, anti-Trump demonstrations also emerged to warn the people of New York that Trump was not welcome in the city where he ran his 2016 campaign.
Candidate Donald Trump came to the South Bronx today to speak to some supporters and to a fair amount of empty space in Crotona.
Video sightings have also refuted claims that Donald Trump has a large following. This clip depicts the moderate crowd in attendance, which may or may not include exclusive Trump supporters.
This is Trump's speech in the Bronx. This is what it looked like today in the Bronx, New York.
Tell me you've never been to New York without telling me you've never been to New York. That is Barack Obama's rally in front of 100,000 people in St. Louis in 2008. This is an aerial shot of Donald Trump's rally in the Bronx.
There has been what seems like a planned alliance to refute all of the Republican deception used to inflate their circumstances, including the size of the crowd they drew.
Wow. Mr. President, there's more of them here now than when I was up about an hour and a half ago. If there's one thing we know, is that this man was one of the best presidents this country has ever had.
The Trump campaign has been attempting to reach out to more Black and Latino voters to persuade some of them to vote for the former president, or at the very least, not to vote for Biden. The South Bronx and New York voted heavily for President Joe Biden in the 2020 election, which played a significant role in the outcome.
Come on up here, fellas. How are you, man? Hey. Oh, I like that. I want to get that done.
It should come as no surprise that, with all eyes seemingly on the former president, some of the people he had welcomed on stage have been distinguished, and not all positively.
G recently posted a $1.5 million cash bond to get released. There you are together on the
presence of such disturbing criminal figures on stage, coupled with a 140-count criminal indictment of severe crimes, such as murder and shootings, is a rotten egg that only adds to the campaign's ugliness.
They always gonna whisper your accomplishments and shout your failures. Trump gonna shout the wins for all of us.
In all of the events and drama, we see two sides of the former president. One in a frenzy hurling taunts at his prosecutors and opponents, and the other at a campaign rally in the South Bronx, where they may have had to lie to give the impression that the former president still has a large number of supporters among New York residents.
They always gonna whisper your accomplishments and shout your failures. Trump gonna shout the wins for all of us.
With the final court verdict approaching, what is next for the former president? Will he be declared guilty or innocent? If he is found guilty, what is his next step? Will he actually go to prison? And if not, how does he go about fixing the damage caused by this humiliating Manhattan court trial?
Trump is found guilty. God knows exactly when the verdict will come in. But if he is found guilty, could he be put in jail? And could he be, in fact, elected president while he's in jail?
What are your thoughts on all of this? As always, your comments are important to us. The courtroom drama may be scarce for the time being, but things appear to be intensifying, and you will not want to miss any of it. Nor will we. We're not going anywhere. And we'll definitely be back in this much more than serious Oscar-worthy setting. Until next time,